Hey everyone, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. Today, it's about Nostalrius. Yep, everybody's favourite topic in the entire universe. Why are we bringing it up again? Well, basically, J. Allen Brack, who is the executive producer and senior vice president for World of Warcraft at Blizzard, has posted on the forums. Well, Nethera posted a letter from him, but anyway, he made that post. In that post, he talks about why they killed Nostalrius, Pristine realms, whatever they could be, and then a little bit about them talking with Nostalrius. Overall, it brings up quite a few interesting little discussions, especially surrounding the Pristine realms and what they could possibly mean. Before we get into that, I just want to say that hearing communication from Blizzard is great. As far as a corporate philosophy goes, Blizzard are not the most active and open communicators. That's just how they roll by the looks of things. Maybe they feel a bit burned after Warlords, where they definitely did say quite a lot and then didn't really do the best job of following up on all of it. Recently, a little bit of a stir was kicked off when Ghostcrawler made a post that was responding to a question on his Ask FM. It was actually in regards to the Nostalrius topic, where he said that he wasn't really going to, sort of give an either way answer on whether Nostalrius should be alive or dead, but did say that he had sympathy for the players who lost, progress and things like that. But he also said that one of the things that maybe he disagrees with in terms of Blizzard's philosophies is how they communicate. And it is evident in this. It took Blizzard a long time to get back to this. And if you think about it, this response that we got is 6 paragraphs, 7 maybe? Now, you could have got those paragraphs out quite a bit faster, and you would have got your word into the sort of the pot of ideas a lot more quick. And as a company like that, what you want to be doing is you want to attack the news and get in there really quick so that you can influence people's ideas as they're forming. Once somebody's kind of fully formed an idea and they've taken ownership of the stance they have and what they think, it's going to be far harder to persuade them in any direction. So you need to get in while they are a bit more soft in their idea, and then influence, whatever way they go. And yes, that all does sound very evil, but I suppose a nicer way of saying it is that if you're a little bit more open and honest a bit sooner and have a discussion with people, it's more likely that everybody will come to some sort of mutual understanding. But hey, we're talking about a company, so it's kind of fun to make it sound dastardly, isn't it? Now, Blizzard, of course, do have community managers and people like that, and from people I know who actually work in a few different studios, some pretty big ones, I'm not going to name drop them though, but yeah, a lot of the community people, they spend a lot of time reading forums, reading feedback. If I was to quote the guy, it is, if you say some shit about a game, the community department will find it and it will be filed in a report somewhere. So they're always making reports, doing things like that, making analytics. So I think it is definitely true that when they say that, people's thoughts are being heard, that they have been heard. I just wish the Blizzard would do a better job of doing something after they've heard people's opinions. Anyway, let's talk about the real topic. Nostalrius, why kill it? Well, quite simply, IP protection. He said that it's just about protecting their intellectual property rights. A court will take your IP rights with less seriousness if you can be shown to have not protected them in the past, especially in a circumstance like what is essentially a pirate server where you probably should have. Now, Brack also went on to say that they couldn't find a clear legal path to have both private servers exist and protect Blizzard's rights. I think it probably is possible to allow for player-run servers of different types. You could do it through the Battle.net launcher. You could probably do a few different things, but it's worth saying that that's a lot harder to do with, say, World of Warcraft. It's not like you're just spinning off your own Call of Duty or Counter-Strike server. That's, a small little thing. With WoW server, it very much is different, and I can absolutely see why they wouldn't want that to be a part of the Blizzard experience that they endorse and offer. Now, IP it's the sort of thing that legally it's decently clear-cut. It's kind of boring. I don't think it's the interesting part of this discussion, as I said in my last video. So all the, herder, screw this, let's not listen to anybody's opinion because this is technically against, a piece of paper. Come on, that's a little bit boring. Now, IP is something I'll be better equipped to talk about in the future, though, as I think most of you know at this stage. I run a games company as my 9 to 5. We've got some IP that we will be looking into, sort of just getting protected, as any company should. But all of the talks surrounding getting advice from that are later on. They're about 2 weeks in the future, so I'll be better equipped to talk about that in the future, but let's just leave that rather dull topic for now and talk about Pristine realms. What the hell could a Pristine realm be? Well, quite simply, according to Brack, a realm with no LFG, no RAF, no heirlooms, no WoW token, limited character transfers, no cross-realm. Basically, all level acceleration would be gone, and it would be on just the current expansion. So it's basically a server that's spun out with different rules, and it seems like a character put on that server would be playing by a different rule set, and perhaps would be a character that's a bit more locked off to that server. Now, their thought here is that this might go a little bit more to capturing the initial nostalgia for World of Warcraft, and I think what he's getting at there is the fact that stuff takes longer to do, and you need to be more actively social with the people on your server. Now, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff towards that. Now, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about here, but I just need to reiterate, he didn't say this is a thing they're going to be doing. He said this is a thing that they were bouncing around the office as an idea for a while, and they're now opening up that idea for the community so that they can talk about it, which, well, I suppose internally will help them come to grips with stuff. So, what is the positive? Well, I suppose with Pristine Realms, it's really a positive and a negative thing. First of all, Pristine Warlords of Draenor. I don't think I want to play a Pristine Warlords of Draenor, because Warlords of Draenor is not designed with a pristine sort of realm idea in mind. That's just not how they've made the expansion, right? So you essentially be playing an artificially gimped version of the expansion. However, sometimes artificially gimping yourself can result in things being a bit more fun. Take leveling. If you level in grey gear and you don't use heirlooms or anything like that, it's, in my experience anyway, quite a bit more fun as far as the leveling experience goes. With Warlords of Draenor, what would this mean? Well, leveling would last longer, so you'd be more attached to each individual character because it would take more effort to get going. The leveling would have gear progression within it, so all of that stuff would matter, and it would be significantly longer. Now, when he says all leveling acceleration would be gone, what I'm really interested to know is that the increase to XP requirements per expansion that have happened and have been used to squish expansions such as Mists of Pandaria to be a shorter experience. Not 100% clear based on his post. If it was that those would be stretched out to their original levels, or at least a slower level, then I might actually be a little bit more interested. But essentially, if it takes longer to get stuff, get rewards of any type, those rewards themselves will be a little bit more important. So if you take that into doing dungeons in Warlords of Draenor, if there's no LFG, no LFR, all of those things, you actually will have to talk to people on these pristine realms, and I think that, the chance of getting a guild that naturally forms is a bit stronger. The chance of bumping into people and doing repeated runs of stuff just naturally on a server is a little bit higher because there is that increased need for social interaction, and that in many ways is kind of getting at one of the core things that was going on in the vanilla version of the game. Now, currently, if you look at a lot of servers, they're kind of, well, they're a little bit, I don't want to say barren, but doing something like this would be tricky. If it was the case that you only had one or two pristine realms per region, so, one or two in the US, one or two in the EU, you can guarantee they would be very lively realms. And overall, I think this probably would lead to an experience which is a bit more social, where people do care a little bit more about their progression. And if you think about Warlords of Draenor, from some perspectives, if you don't have LFR, if you don't have LFG, it's going to slow out that gearing experience so that each patch, each level of content will last a little bit longer, and it does, tweak some of those things somewhat. However, we still can't get away from the fact that just is not how the content was really designed to be experienced, and no matter what you do with LFG and RAF and heirlooms and things like that, if it's still the case where soloing to Nan Jungle for a week is your fastest way to get a half-decent item level, well, people will still do that. So things like that don't really have a place in what you could call the nostalgic, air quotes, World of Warcraft, i.e. something from more the TBC and not Wrath, why am I talking about the TBC and vanilla sort of time frame. I think that if you wanted to get something a little bit closer to that time frame, what you would first have to do is change the approach to raid design. That would mean that on a pristine realm, if you were to take the Warlords of Draenor slew of content, first of all that catch-up stuff, you would have to tweak those item levels to be a lot lower, and, change that stuff up so it is basically less rewarding. Maybe you can get some starter stuff, but barely starter stuff, and you would then have to make it, you'd have to make it so that raids are more of a non-linear progression, similar to how it was in vanilla and the Burning Crusade. So what would that mean? Well, essentially, it would mean that you change up the item levels and things like that so that, you know, HFC is your equivalent to Sunwell, and then Highmaul is your equivalent to Karazhan, and you try to recreate that progression. However, currently, you know, we have a few really big raids. Okay, Highmaul's pretty big in itself, yeah. Blackrock Foundry's pretty big. Hellfire Citadel's really quite big indeed. That's three big raids. With the older format of things, you had more one-off raid bosses that were, you know, like Magtheridon or the Emerald Dragon people or Onyxia, stuff like that. You had some smaller raids. You had a bit more of a varied palette of content there that was catering to different group sizes and different things. Additionally, you would have to completely change how you deal with difficulty levels. So you can see that the actual boss fights and boss mechanics from the current expansions, they could all sort of still exist. But what doing a pristine realm that would actually recapture some degree of nostalgia would entail is completely changing the endgame reward systems and social experience to be something a little bit closer to how it used to be. And that is quite a bit of work indeed. The pristine realms that he described here basically seemed, to be a lot more like them turning off a few systems and then just kind of letting people run away with that, a little bit sort of like a design by reduction philosophy. And design by reduction indeed is something that actually can work in quite a lot of times. Now, while all that stuff with the pristine realms is kind of fun to talk about, it's worth mentioning that are players really going to go and just do the slow version of Warlords or the slow version of Legion when they could do the fast version of Legion? It's the kind of thing where, yeah, sure, leveling up a character might be more fun if you're just running in your greys, but are most people okay with just kind of willfully, gimping their character and the speed of their progress? And when we go down to what individuals might do, yeah, there's loads of individuals which may say, yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd love to have the slower, more meaningful sort of progression through the game. However, controlling a large subscriber base, it's kind of like controlling the flow of a river, right? So the water's always going to flow down the easiest path, but as a game designer, what you need to do is, put the right, the right curves in the river, the right, what do you call those gate things and rivers for managing things? Tide barriers and stuff, but you need to put all the right stuff in the river to make sure that the flow of the players, which is something that on a wide scale you can quite easily predict, is going in a good way. And maybe with the pristine servers, people just wouldn't be sort of willfully messing themselves up and doing the slower version of the game when they see all their friends who are doing it way faster. Also, it's a bit odd that Blizzard have called them pristine realms. Is that them saying, well, look, the current version of the game, it's just not pristine because we put all these systems on it. If you want the real version, yeah, this is the pristine one. I don't know, the way that it comes off, maybe that's just the team's internal name for it, which maybe says, or maybe alludes to some of the opinions of the people in the World of Warcraft team. Who knows? That might be us just saying words and baseless words. But I thought it was a little bit of an interesting tidbit to throw in to the mix. But that's really what's going on with the pristine realms. Is it what I think the people who want Nostalrius want to play? No. And indeed, there is a post on the MMO Champion forums, not forums, what am I on about? It's a front page post, it's a front page poll with about 70,000 people who've got back to it. And essentially, 50% of people said they would not play in a pristine realm, 50% of people said they would play on a pristine realm. So pretty much split down the middle there. I'd wonder if you were to ask, would you play in a PvP realm? What would the response be? So maybe 50-50 for a specific kind of realm like this that wouldn't require Blizzard to do that much work is actually okay, and if they could get maybe 2 healthy realms that they didn't have, they would have just disabled a few systems and suddenly they would be ahead of where they used to be. So maybe something like pristine realms could work, somewhat. However, that does lead us on to something a little bit more interesting, and that basically they have been talking with Nostalrius. He said he said one other note. We've recently been in contact with some of the folks who operated Nostalrius. They obviously care deeply about the game, and we look forward to more conversations with them in the coming weeks. Now, Blizzard themselves have talked a little bit about how they had source code problems with, just basically technical implementation problems when it came to implementing, vanilla servers and things like that. Well, why are they talking to Nostalrius? Because it seems like a group of volunteers who just put their free time in have managed to do something which Blizzard says they can't do. I think it's quite obvious when Blizzard says they can't do vanilla servers. That's not actually that truthful, and they can. They just don't want to. Just from a technical perspective, look at it. It's not going to be that insanely hard. EverQuest managed to do it. Nostalrius managed to do it. Therefore, if you've got the backing of, many, many millions of dollars, yeah, you can do it yourself internally, Blizzard. But anyway, they're talking with some of the people in Nostalrius. Who knows what that may lead to? We can speculate that maybe means, they're bringing Nostalrius in-house for Blizzard, and maybe some of the people who headed up the Nostalrius project are going to join the company. That actually is possible. However, are those people who would normally get past the usual Blizzard sort of HR cycle? Are they actually employable staff? What are their skill sets? Who knows? They're all things that would need to be discussed. At any rate, I don't think we're going to see these vanilla servers for a little while yet, if they were ever to appear in the game. And this video is less about talking whether that's a good idea. I think there are some pros. I think there are some cons. I think a lot of the cons are to do with, fracture player-based stuff, and then Blizzard's financials and whether it's worth the financials. However, I think it's quite evident that the money it would take to generate the, to actually make not private servers and vanilla servers, I think that money is something they would earn back through making those vanilla servers. Right now, everyone and their mother's heard about World of Warcraft. It's not like there's an untapped sea of players that's just waiting and never heard of the World of Warcraft that they can swoop up with a really cool trailer or cinematic, like, with what Legion or Warlords of Draenor had. But they do have, was it 100-something million accounts that they boasted had been made for World of Warcraft? They've got so many veterans for this game who have left the game over the last 10 years. I think they've got more veterans who are more willing or likely to come back if they do this than they maybe have new customers that they can earn by changing the design philosophies to be something that's maybe a little bit more directly easy for people to get into, maybe more streamlined. So I think there is a solid financial reason that it might make sense to do vanilla servers at some point. And certainly if somebody, goes into a vanilla server, maybe they'd upgrade to playing on live. Who the hell knows? And of course, a vanilla server, maybe that's something that they could charge a little bit more for. Blizzard, back in the Wrath of the Lich King days, did have the World of Warcraft premium subscription. Basically, the premium subscription was something that would give you access to the remote auction house, I believe. So they've toyed the idea with the idea of there being basic World of Warcraft and then World of Warcraft with a little premium thing on the top. So maybe that premium thing, instead of giving us a mobile app for auctions, could give us something really cool, like a vanilla server or a TBC server. So with all of those things done, and you could call that some of my professional opinions, what are my personal opinions on the vanilla server stuff? If Blizzard launched one, I would play it in a heartbeat. It's that simple. Why? Because I didn't play the game during vanilla. I started off during the Burning Crusade, or I think early enough Burning Crusade, but still I started off during TBC. So for me, seeing that level 60 endgame and maybe seeing the Gates of Ahn'Qiraj, if we remove this from all the other topics, that we've been talking about with Nostalrius and the legalities, I just think it would be cool to see that event again, because I never saw it for myself, right? So that is cool. For me, that is a value proposition that I am willing to put time and money into. So yeah, I absolutely would. If it was a progression server, would I be interested? That's actually an interesting question. I'm interested in a progression server until it hits Wrath of the Lich King, because Cataclysm and all those expansions, they're in recent memory, and they're before some major sort of design changes came into the game. So in a way, I'm a little bit less interested about a server that will move on. That said, if they are moving on at 2 years in expansion, I think I'd be okay starting off with vanilla and seeing how we go. Perhaps the way they could do a progression server is that they open up the new TBC realm and everybody's able to, flip their vanilla server character over to the TBC one, or perhaps even copy their vanilla server character over to the new TBC server. Both of those things basically are something I'd be very interested in from a personal level, and indeed they are something that I would be willing to pay a additional monthly fee for. That just comes down to how much is whatever amount of money worth to you. I'm at the position where, I work from basically 9 till 10, and that last 2 hours where I get to chill out is really worth a lot to me, so I'd be okay to pay a full subscription again. I think more realistically, I would rather, they make a tiny little ancillary thing, though I do think it is fair to charge more for something like this. There are most of my thoughts on this. I will be very interested to see if we ever have cause to talk about this majorly again, because if we do, it probably means that something really interesting has happened. So, until then, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what your comments are down in the video description, and hit me up on Twitter if you want a bit more of a direct chat about it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.